Good morning. My name is Bartłomiej Zagrodnik. I'm the managing partner in Walter Herz Advisory Company. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm pleased to welcome you and invite to watch today's webinar, which is also the official premiere of Why Invest in Poland report for guests from all over the world. Today, we have participants representing companies investing hundreds of billion euro in real estate sector. On the other hand, we have entities employing hundreds of thousands of people. From this point, I would like to thank the partners and authors of this report, the Polish Investment and Trade Agency and company people. Poland offers unique opportunities and potential. Thanks to its highly educated human capital, biggest in region and stable economy, together with huge internal purchasing power, creates opportunity to achieve attractive yields comparing to Western countries. Human capital creates many advantages and potential for further development in other regions of Poland. I believe that our report, together with unique knowledge of our experts, will bring us a lot of interesting knowledge and points that will ensure all participants about great potential of Poland.
We'll start with the first part of our meeting and go into capital potential of Poland.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Grzegorz Słomkowski. I'm the Vice President of Polish Investment and Trade Agency. We are a state-owned agency focusing on two activities, main activities. First is supporting expansion of Polish exports, and second, supporting foreign investments, as foreign as well as Polish. Let me say a few words about our agency. We are altogether more than 200 people. Among them, 16 are consultants focusing directly on FDI field. We speak 11 languages, so we can give you a broad support for your businesses in Poland. At the moment, we have 180 current projects, despite COVID time, in a value almost 9 billion euro. It shows the interest for Poland, and it shows that we are a very good place to invest. This is also supported also by independent rankings from FDI report, and Poland, I could remind you, is the place, the only place practically in Europe among bigger countries in which foreign investment grew last year. So in a total Europe, the investment FDI dropped by 9%, while in Poland it grew by 14%. We have more than 25 years experience of services for our investors, and we completed more than 850 projects in Poland in total value of 24 billion euro. So it can give you the idea about our power and our role in the FDI process in Poland. We are also the organization which represents government in relations with foreign investors. So we can support you in all the process, giving full coverage from searching for the plot suitable for your investment till post-investment service. You can see on the right side of my slide short summary of the investment, from which region or from which origin we have. So at the moment, in terms of the number of the projects, the biggest amount is from United States of America, then followed by China, Poland and Japan, and also South Korea. You can see the digits and number of projects supported by our agency. On the right side, you have investment project by industry. So the strongest field in Poland is area of business services. Poland is very well recognized in quality of people. We have, for example, more than 400,000 developers in IT field, which gives us in all rankings number 3 as regards IT strengths of the country. Polish developers are ranked number 1, for example, in Python programming, number 3 in algorithms, and other. This is only the example, because more details you can find later on in our report. As you see, the other fields of and industries which we support is electromobility. In terms of value, this is number one in Poland. We are the place when the biggest investment in battery is located. Of course, this investment is made by LG Chem and other fields. As I said before, we can support all the investors in macroeconomic data, in HR and sectorial reports. We can identify potential partners for you after your investment, and we can connect them with your processes. We can give you full information about all the public funding possible in Poland. So based on the criteria of your investment, which you can all, of course, find more details in the report, we can calculate, submit in your name to our government, and then come back with relevant support. We can also facilitate all the contacts with local and central government. As state-owned agency, it's more easy for us, and of course more easy for investors who cooperate with us. And of course, we can also give you some location consulting. Together with our partners, we find suitable plots for your investment, and we can also give you relevant site visits before the investment is made. As regards the country, as I mentioned, I ranked number one in Europe in many rankings. We are among top 3 destinations to invest because these are some reasons why I can support my thesis. This is unprecedented growth. So you can see that we have the highest growth in OECD countries between 1990 and 2019. On average, it's 4%, so which gives us really number one in Europe as a potential. And we faced no recession from 1991 till this year, till of course COVID times, when practically all countries will notice some effects of the COVID, and I will tell a few words in a moment. We have the biggest labor market in the Europe. 40% of the labor force is located in Poland. We are the biggest recipient of labor from neighboring countries like Ukraine, Belarus. We have stable and robust economy, and we have all the practically indicators that support right decision to invest in Poland. And in the last thing that I would like to mention is our well-developed infrastructure. We are first in Central and Eastern Europe in airport connectivity and quality of road infrastructure, which also gives a very good insight for the business. Few more things. Our law and registration, all the law regulations are transparent. We are business friendly. We are this year 14th in doing business ranking, first in Central and Eastern Europe. Europe. We are, as I mentioned before, FDI magnet. We are the top EU in value of new greenfield projects last year. This year, I can mention, is similar to the last year, which may raise, of course, debate of many things, but I think that big and long-term investors take a much longer perspective than the COVID itself. And my last slide, which I would like to show you, the COVID effect on Polish economy. According to the estimations made in the middle of this year, we will be the least affected country in Europe regarding drop of GDP. Today I can say that this drop will be even below 4%, which is a good sign for Poland and for potential investments in Poland. So more details are included in our report, which you will, of course, receive later on. So thank you very much.
Grzegorz, thank you very much. As you rightly mentioned, more details to follow in the report, which we were able to download after the webinar. It will be actually sent to all of you here with us online today automatically once we do the closing remarks. Now moving on to the Poland as business and investment destinations, I would like to say that Poland has always been located in the heart of Europe. We have been the bridge between the West and the East for centuries. When I say the bridge, I not only mean the central location in Europe, but also the historical mix of cultures, societies and businesses. Since 1989, which is commonly known as the fall of communism, Polish people wanted to close the development gap between Poland and the rest of the developed world. There have been ups and downs on the way to today, but many investors are still very happy with the returns made on the investments. As a confirmation of where Poland is now, I would like to say that FTSE Russell rating agency changed the rating of Poland from emerging to developed in September 2017. At the moment, there are over 38 million people living in Poland, which makes us the 6th largest country in the European Union. And as Grzegorz said, this also accounts for 40% of the entire population of Central and Eastern Europe. We are also the largest academic hub in the region, with high-quality graduates every year. Such number of residents creates the internal demand for products and services, which is very large and therefore interesting to companies operating in Poland. Poland's economy has been steadily growing since 1989, when we started the transformation process. The graph which you see on the screen now shows only part of the road which Polish economy took since then. The last time we had negative GDP growth index was in 1991. And if you compare the annual GDP growth to entire European Union or even just Euro currency area, Poland has been performing better than them in the last 20 years. Even during the crisis in 2008, when results of the rest of Europe plummeted, Poland was still showing positive growth. GDP per capita grew sevenfold since 1990 to reach almost $35,000 in 2019. The unemployment in Poland was in two-digit numbers for quite a long time. It peaked in 2002 when it reached 20% of total labor force. Since then, it has been declining year on year to the level of 3.3% last year. In 2020, the unemployment increased slightly, mainly due to the current health situation, and is currently at the level of around 5%. Poland has been the key destination for real estate investors in Central and Eastern Europe. Investment market in 2019 was worth approximately 7.6 billion euro. Office properties were responsible for half of it, which was 3.5 billion euro. Retail accounted for almost 2 billion euro, which makes 26% of the total investment volume. Industrial and logistics takes about 1.4 billion euro, which is 18%, and hotels accounted only for 4% of the total investment volume in 2019. Even though the pandemic struck in the first half of 2020, the investment volume in the first 6 months of this year was at the level of 2.9 billion euro. Most of the capital investment comes from Europe and United States, although there is more and more interest from investors from Asia and South Africa in the past few years. We have also seen interest from some European investors in smaller local destinations, especially for retail parks. There is also an increase of interest in resort hotels, either on the Baltic seaside or in key mountain locations. Even though the yields have been slightly compressed, they are still higher by 2 to 3 percentage points than in the mature Western European markets, while the risk in Poland is still on the lower side.
Let's go to the capital market. Capital market is strictly connected to real estate. First half of this year saw an absolute record-breaking result in the history of the Polish investment market, in the warehouse segment especially. For the office sector, it was second best 6 months in history in terms of transaction value. Despite the turbulences caused by COVID-19, total transaction volume in the commercial real estate sector in Poland in the first half of this year was even higher than the excellent result from the same period in 2019. During the last few years, we can see significant change in structure of its investment market, growing part of industrial, and the falling share of retail transactions. Let's start with office market, which is the most important in terms of connecting both investment potential and human capital. Poland is biggest office market in Central Eastern Europe, with the total supply on the level of 11.2 million square meters of modern office space. And the Warsaw in that is responsible for 50.4 of total supply. When we look into vacancy rate, has been decreasing since 2016 from more than 16% to 7.9. However, in new central business district, it is achieving level less than 5%, what means that the best projects are secured by tenants 36 months before delivery date. Due to financial expectations, headline rents for many years are on the stable level, while changes appear on the effective level. Capital city of Poland, at the same time, thanks to approximately 2 million population, creates a unique place to be a hub for many key financial institutions and headquarters for most recognizable companies, with such brands like JP Morgan or Standard Chartered. Warsaw in coming years will face time of skyscrapers and the most spectacular projects, what will change Warsaw's skyline for sure. On the other hand, vacancy is growing, what should help to achieve stable level for both tenants and landlords. Regional markets are responsible for 49.6% of total office supply in Poland and present dynamic growth due to huge access to human capital, which is crucial in terms of potential new investment in different cities of Poland. Currently, approximately 1.5 million square meters of the offices is under construction in the 8 largest regional markets, accounting for 800,000 square meters. The most active developers are in Kraków, Katowice, Tri-City, where office stock is going to hit the 1 million square meter after the full completion, what gives Tri-City the 4th position. Despite that work in Poland is ongoing, completion dates for some projects may be pushed back to a later date due to big supply in that cities. Regional markets are mainly driven by demand from BPO, shared service, R&D, ITO. Totally in Poland, according to ABSL, approximately 340,000 people work in that sector. In terms of investment, during last year, yields offered on those markets were on the attractive level for investors. We have seen many transactions with investors all over the world, mainly with the capital from Western Europe, US, Asia, and Africa, what secured good liquidity on those markets.
Let's now move to another part of the market in Poland, which is hospitality. In the past years, the word hospitality was attributed mostly to hotel properties, standalone holiday homes, etc. Nowadays, hospitality covers every type of real estate property or unit which can be rented on a short-term or even long-term basis, from hotels through serviced apartments to hostels and private individual homes. Some sources also include even student housing or elderly homes in this sector. Today we'll only touch base on hotels as they are still forming the majority of investments, and we have limited time to discuss this topic during the webinar. The Polish hospitality market has been growing in the past few years. The number of leisure and business visitors using hotels and similar establishments has been increasing year on year. It increased by 5.2% since 2018 and reached the level of almost 36 million people last year. There were over 600 hotels in Poland last year, with half of it in 3-star rating. The lowest share belongs to 5-star hotels, as there were only 76 properties in this category. Traditionally, Warsaw, Kraków and Gdańsk, together with the Sopot and Gdynia as a tri-city, were the most popular with new investors, although some of the resort locations were experiencing increase in both new openings and future pipeline. Saturation of some markets, together with epidemic state imposed in March 2020, are likely to cause some of the existing properties to cease operations permanently. The main reasons for this would be challenges to keep the right cash flow level, especially at the properties which already had a history of low profitability and bad management. It is also possible that many of the investors will review and revise their investment plans. This might lead to either postponing the construction of new properties or even to a complete withdrawal from this type of investments. Nevertheless, hotels and other hospitality properties proved in the past that are resilient to crises or economic slowdowns, obviously in the long term. We still see hospitality as a good investment area, especially for investors who are looking at mid to long-term investment horizon.
Let's go to the probably most crisis-resistant market and the most changing market this year for sure, and in the couple next coming years. The Polish industrial market continues its strong momentum. Both take-up and supply reach high levels in first half of 2020. Poland total warehouse stock will soon break 20 million, spread across more than 400 industrial parks. With that result, Poland was the third most active country in Europe in terms of development, with a 15% share of newly completed space. Strong demand from global and local leading companies ensured investors such as Service Management, P3, CGL to invest in big logistic portfolios, which should definitely have visible impact on investment structure on coming years. Growing road network provides huge potential to grow for new markets, especially Eastern Poland. Connected with the changing buying habits of Polish society, we definitely see the rising star of logistic and industrial market in the coming years.
Last but not least, let's touch on the retail sector. In the past few years, we have seen the decrease in delivering new supply on the retail market. One of the reasons behind it is the growing saturation with large-scale projects in agglomerations. On the other hand, there are more and more projects implemented in small towns, which have less than 100,000 residents. Such locations accounted for 40% of the annual supply in 2019. The reason behind it is the change in shopping habits, as customers prefer to shop quickly and near their homes. Total volume of investment transactions in the retail sector were at the level of almost 2 billion euro in 2019, which is actually a 24% decrease from 2018. The largest portfolio transaction in 2019 was the acquisition of shopping centers by Chromo Property Group for almost 600 million euro. Atrium European Real Estate sold its two projects, Atrium Felicity in Lublin and Atrium Koszalin, to ECE European Group for almost 298 million euro. There was also a transaction of 5 macro assets from Metro Properties acquired by FLE, the purchase of Galeria Leszno by Prime Holdings, and the purchase of King's Cross Praga by Atrium European Real Estate. We'll shortly move to the panel discussion and a Q&A session in a couple of minutes. If you have any questions you would like to ask the panelists about, please type them in the chat box. We'll try to answer them, as many as possible, now. If the time would not permit us to do so, we'll come back to you after the event with the reply. We'll start a discussion with our dear guest here in the studio, with Mr. Grzegorz Słomkowski, the Vice President of the Polish Investment and Trade Agency, which will be followed then with a discussion with our online guests in few moments.
Yeah, gentlemen, thank you very much for the first part. I think that all our presentation shows us the huge potential of Poland. I can't wait for our great discussion with us here and our guests online. Let's introduce, as we've seen that we already are probably all online. We have Mr. Grzegorz Słomkowski here with us, and Magdalena Kowalewska, Country Manager Operations Poland at Immo Finance, one of the biggest funds and developer in Poland. Welcome, Magdalena.
Welcome, everybody.
Good morning. We have Miguel Martins with us as well today, the Head of Development Northern Europe at Intercontinental Hotels Group. Good morning, Miguel.
Good morning, everyone.
And we have Karina Trojanska, Chief Operating and Financing Officer in Poland at Panatone Europe, leading industrial and logistics provider. Karina, can you hear us? Karina, are you with us? Okay, so probably in a couple of seconds. Let's start with the first question. Grzegorz, what is the structure of FDI inquiries? Are there any visible changes in the trend of inquiries from the industry, source of capital, or how does it look like right now during the new times?
As regards capital, we see no big change in the value of projects conducted by Polish investment trade agency. As was mentioned before, we carry more than 180 projects in total value, almost 9 billion euro. As regards the number of investments, of course, the key players are investment companies from United States. I can remind you that if you look at the American investment back in Poland, almost 1,500 American companies invested in Poland in total value of 64 billion US dollars. And we can say that, at the moment they produce almost 4% of Polish GDP. At the moment, American companies are also visible. Their investments are quite big. I can remind two big decisions, by Google and Microsoft, altogether invested in Poland this year, COVID year, 3 billion US dollar for creating infrastructure in Poland. And as regards value, also we can recognize Asian investors, especially from Korea and Japan, and we have great big investments in the field of electromobility, billions of dollars, and we become number one player in the region.
I can say the same. As today we have 76 countries, representatives of 76 countries, and lots of them are, I can agree, from the Asia. So it looks really, really interesting that the Asia is really interested in investing in Poland. But the numbers that you presented are really impressive for this year.
Miguel, I have a question to you. As you've been in Poland for quite some time already, what change have you seen in the hospitality in that time between you moved in here and now?
Well, I have to say that after 12 years, a lot has changed. So I can say that it has been a 180 degrees change from what we have seen when I came to Poland and how we are today with the industry. The hospitality industry, it's not detached from the real estate market and from other industries. So they obviously benefit from the growth of Poland in these last 12 years. I remember the fact that traveling to the border of Germany would take approximately 9 hours by car, something that today with the highways is something that we can do probably around 5 hours. So it has been a shift from an asset class which has been on the last choices for developers and investors. I remember clearly that hotels were just after logistics when I came to Poland, and to a reality where hotels became second, third choice within the real estate industry. So there has been a professionalization of the sector in Poland that has been a full understanding of the industry as well. Poland became a destination for business, and that has been a proliferation on the third stage of what we call the city or business-driven hotels. But actually, what also surprised me the years, Poland became also a touristic destination. So you see both in the mountains, in the Baltic coast, and also in the lakes, we have been seeing year after year not only an increase of the hotel construction, but also a kind of trend that these places became almost a full year destination. So Poland has a lot of things to offer, both from the business and leisure. And this attached with the increase of disposable income from Polish, and most of these hotels, they have generated quite interesting with the domestic market. So in some of these hotels, we are talking about 80 to 90 guests Polish. So definitely a lot has changed in the hotel industry. The market and the sector became much more sexy, and this is also something that for us in IG was a great momentum to benefit all that growth in the country.
Thank you very much. It's very interesting.
Magda, Immo Finance is one of the biggest investor in commercial real estate in Poland. How do you perceive market and changes in regard to the office sector?
Yes, indeed. Immofinanz is active investor in both sectors, retail and offices. In terms of offices, we are the owner of more than 300,000 square meters of modern offices located in the most important business district in Warsaw. And Poland actually is very important to our group. One of the evidences to prove that is the fact that we bought Warsaw Spire Tower last year, and this investment was really substantial on the market itself. Talking about the market, office market in general, one general observation can be made looking at the activity of tenants, that processes take place slower, a bit slower than before COVID time. However, contracts are still being signed. Both new contracts, new tenants are coming to relocations and both prolongations. Talking about numbers themselves, looking at last year, we signed 75,000 square meters of contracts for office space. And looking at the numbers of this year, from the beginning of January till the end of September, it's 35,000. So activity is there. When we look at the prime products like Warsaw Spire, currently the Spire is fully occupied, and actually all the time we have the requests from the market, from tenants who would like to locate their offices there. When we talk about changes and trends, what is going on the market in terms of offices, it seems that flexibility is definitely a key. It seems also that tenants will want to use some kind of hybrid solutions, that they will want to secure their core business for long-term lease. So for the time being, we perceive that long-term traditional leases will be still in demand. However, tenants have a need to stay flexible, to rent as many desks as possible in the given month of the maybe new project that they acquire. And based on this trend that is existing, actually started to exist also before the COVID times. And it seems that this will be getting stronger. This is why we have decided within Immofinanz Group to invest into new product, into flexible offices under our international office brand, MyHive. And we want to provide tenants to meet the office needs tenants, whatever they are. So we will be offering not only long-term leases, but also flexible offices. Additionally, it seems that open space might no longer be that effective, because companies who want and need to be socially responsible, they will not allocate employees in the office space like they did in the past, in the new normal situation. So I would expect changes, reorganizations, refitting out of the office, how the offices function for the time being. Additionally, and that is also what started before COVID times, offices will not be longer only offices. Amenities will play even greater role in also constructing and also management of office buildings. Today, nobody is surprised when we look at office buildings, when we see a long list of amenities, and this will get stronger with coming months and years. Also, what is important is investing in technology. We ourselves, as Immofinanz, teamed up recently with SpaceOS, And we want to not only manage our office portfolio in the most efficient way and to learn what our tenants' needs are, but also to manage capacity of the buildings versus number of users that are existing in the buildings, that are occupying the space. This will be for sure important aspect in the future. And lastly but not least, what we also see that during decision-making process, tenants pay very much attention to the technical aspect of the properties they rent. So also such things like air change, ventilation, hygiene standards will be of very high importance. So these are aspects that very much are coming to the light during current times.
Magda, thank you for many great insights. I believe that this is really important for current times. Karina, Magda mentioned three very interesting words: new normal, slower processes, and flexibility as the drivers. About the industrial and logistics seems to be one of the most crisis-resistant markets. How does it look like from your perspective?
Yes, that's correct. So I think that coronavirus and the pandemic changed industrial and logistic market forever. That trend was already visible, especially in United States and in Western Europe. But of course, it's accelerated significantly during last month. And this acceleration of demand for logistic space driven by e-commerce is really huge. E-commerce needs 2 to 3 times more space than traditional retail. It means that whole network for e-commerce, for whole space needs to be built from scratch, and obviously we think that next couple of years will be boom for logistic and industrial space. We have quite a healthy pipeline of customers and strong demand from customer side. And I can say from what we did till now during this year, it will be record high in terms of new leases. So for us and for our sector, pandemic changed things dramatically. But in the end, and of course that trend and this acceleration would happen, but probably it would take 5 years and not 3 months what we saw in last couple of months. And currently it depends on health of our economy, how things will go forward. But I think that anyway, if there will be a slowdown, we are not seeing that right now, but probably the logistic will be first sector that will recover, and we will see quite rapid rebound in all spheres.
Thank you, Karina. Miguel, I have one more question for you. As you are responsible for the development of Intercontinental Hotels Group in half of Europe, let's put it this way, are there any hospitality ideas or formats, investment formats, which exist in the other parts of Europe from your experience, but are not yet in Poland? And do you think they could be successful here on the Polish market?
There are few, it's not that it's not in Poland yet, but I do see a trend on the extended stay product, branded extended stay product. I do see that these products are a good alternative to what people have used in the past with the Airbnbs. One of the main issues related with Airbnbs and the corporate guests is exactly the requirements, safety, hygiene, and therefore usually these were used mainly by leisure guests. But I do believe that in today's world we kind of don't have a place to work, right? We can be traveling all the time, and today we can be working from everywhere. And in that sense, I do believe that within the hotel sector, apart from what I called the cookie cutters, the standard products focused on large events or mostly on the transient guests or on the 1 2 days of corporate guests, I do believe there is a niche within the extended. And one of the things we have been seeing is actually the component of en-suite. If I take our neighbors in Germany, we do see a lot of requests, especially now during this pandemic season, on trying to diversify the product within very well-known brands. And I'm talking essentially the Holiday Inn or the Holiday Inn Express brands are very well-known brands, very clear identified businesses. But investors and developers are seeing actually the potential to add 2 to 3 floors of an extended stay component on those buildings. And I do see that this might become a trend as well in Poland in the years to come. Of course, apart from that, the other element I see as still with great capabilities to grow is the F&B outlets in the hotels currently in Poland. You do go to other countries, and apart from hotel, the F&B is a destination by itself. So you kind of go to that restaurant have a meal, irrespectively if it's inside of hotel. I still see a lot in Poland the very well defined F&B outlet, which is mainly for the guests of the hotel and nothing more than that. Especially in these days, we do see the necessity of reinventing that F&B strategy. I will give you some examples. We saw during the lockdown period that our Intercontinental was actually delivering meals to residents in Warsaw. So you would have a package of a full day meal. And this was actually a very interesting way to give to society. Same time also to reinvent a little bit how the F&B could be put at use for benefit of people outside of the pure hotel business. So I think these two, just to mention, uh, just these two examples, they could be definitely things that could improve or go into detail.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Grzegorz, during this three speaks, we had an opportunity to hear about from the investors that the business is getting slower, is need to be more flexible. However, from your perspective as a national agency, you are cooperating with those processes on a daily basis. You mentioned that only this year, $3 billion US companies invest in Poland. So how you are working on that? That on the one hand, we had slower processes. On the other hand, we need to secure future jobs and future FDI coming to Poland. How you work on this slower processes? Can you see that, or is something different?
I must first say that Polish Investment and Trade Agency is a part of Polish Development Fund, organization dedicated to support Polish smaller medium-sized and bigger organization to develop the country. And Polish Development Fund has been nominated by our government to support all the companies during these difficult times. We see from our perspective, looking on all investments, that big investments are taking long perspective. So in the terms of really big investment over several hundred million of dollars, we see no change. And even we see some growth, especially in industries that are very perspectival, like electromobility. In case of smaller investments, we see slight drop because people are worried about the current situation. We work on this as a government institution. We give all the mechanism to support companies, to give financing, to give support in various areas of the business.
Okay, that sounds very interesting. Magda, I have a question to you. As a Karina from logistics and industrial perspective mentioned that e-commerce needs 3 times more space than the retail, maybe somehow connected to the retail. Immofinances as well has a portfolio of stop shop. Is the future of retail and something what is crisis resistant, or we should move into totally the e-commerce solutions?
Indeed, Immofinance is active in retail sector as well. And there are actually 2 formats that we are all the time investing in. This is a format of shopping centers, Vivo, and retail parks, stop shops. We have 4 shopping centers and 10 retail parks in Poland. And as much as we see that shopping centers, they are trying to catch up the numbers in terms of especially footfall of pre-COVID times. We see that retail parks, who were like weaker sisters of shopping centers, now they are really the stars of the industry. It happened so that during the pandemic times, we opened Stop Shop Siedlce, our freshest, newest development of retail park, which includes 24 stores. And we saw from the very beginning of operations of this retail park that the concept is very well proven on the market. During the first week after the retail was opened again, we recorded 44,000 of visitors, and this number was only growing in the coming weeks. In the 2 months of May and June, we recorded more than 600,000 of customers. And during next months, it was even getting higher. And there are a couple of reasons why retail parks are so attractive currently. First of all, the offered tenant mix is affordable, which is very desirable by the customers nowadays in the times that are economically challenging. The other aspect is that social distancing is given in these formats. You enter the store directly from the parking lot. Additionally, referring to what you, Bartek, said about e-commerce, retail parks are perfectly compatible with e-commerce. It's not a direct competition because within a retail park, the offer is based on the very basic needs of tenants, which is not necessarily happening within online trade. And additionally, the rental costs and operational costs of retail parks are lower, relatively lower in comparison with shopping centers towards for retailers. And this is also the reason why retailers are now searching for the new locations. We were recently active during shopping center forum, and we were really amazed how many retailers were approaching us, asking about opening stores in new locations in this challenging times that we are currently facing. As Simofinance, we are not stopping development at all. On the contrary, we are searching for new locations. We are securing new plots. We are starting soon, again, new construction site in Zielona Góra. And we see that demand from tenants is growing in terms of this concept. So we are open to cooperate in any of the, let's say, setup. We will be active not only as active developer, but we will be also buying the products and are buying the products already that are ready-made, and we will be converting them into our brand Stop Shop, because also the fact that our assets are branded, they are standardized, this helps proceeding for the retailers very fast because they know the format very well. The only aspect which needs to be very well analyzed by the retailers is the aspect of the location itself. And today we are the owner of close to 100 stop shops in Europe, and we want to outgrow this number as soon as possible. Our dream is to make really like a Poland map of the yellow spider's web full of stop shop locations. So we are very much looking forward to this times.
Magda, congratulations on the brave decision and actions. Definitely, as I know you, based on the very good calculations and deep analytical models. But one more question. Do you believe that this is the end of the era of big shopping malls, maybe conversion them like in the US from the big shopping malls into different options and different usage?
For sure, it will be a challenge to own big shopping malls, to manage them long term, to have a large scale of shopping malls, because lots of changes will need to be implemented in these formats. And I'm afraid that today the answer to this question is not yet known, because we are in the environment of lots of anxiety and lots of changes. So especially with very large assets that already before pandemia, changes needed to be implemented. I think still lots of analysis needs to be made, and here careful decisions should be executed. Coming back to retail parks, the beauty of retail park is the fact that the concept is very simple. The construction is simple, leasing is simple, operating the cost is simple, and actually during the crisis, simple solutions are the best, I think, what we could use.
Thank you for that. Karina, as Magda mentioned, there is lots of challenges in the retail. Grzegorz said that the Polish government is improving and supporting the local entities from the small to the big entities. What will the future of the warehouse market? Will it change big boxes or at the last miles warehouses as the people are buying the different stuff personally? Does it make any difference to the investors?
So if you imagine supply chain, so big boxes, warehouses in core industrial location represent first mile of delivery, and last mile delivery product is responsible for placing the product directly from the product to the final customer. So, like simply, if you look at this, like both formats are needed and will coexist at the market. Yes, but it's a fact that that this last mile delivery should be developed, and there is a tremendous demand for that format. We have new generation of people that is like that lives like in one click world, so they expect their products will be delivered the same day and next day, and speed of delivery is very important, and with new generation we have growing customer power, and we need more products like that. So yes, that will be the trend will be accelerating, and placement of this last mile delivery formats. It will be like smaller products, not big warehouses, within the city boundaries and within regional cities. So always the strength will be to be closer to customer. And from investor point of view, there are like different strategies of investment in logistics, and there is capital that will chase last mile delivery format, but there is capital that will be still interested in this box format segment. And what we see right now, what is interesting, that capital that wouldn't look at logistics segment is now talking to us, and I think like each week we have discussion and with new capital, with new investor. So there is a lot of education, of explaining, and we see that capital that was previously only focused on retail or hotels is now moving to our sector. So we see that trend for sure. And what is more logistic has quite good fundamentals in Poland. Poland is located in Central Europe, has excellent access to serve Western Europe. Europe is a continent that has no boundaries, so there is no boundaries between Poland and Germany. And you can deliver goods from warehouse in Poland to Germany, to Austria, to France, and to other countries. And the reason why why customers decide to locate their business in Poland is of course much cheaper labor force than in Germany, and the difference in delivery is maybe 1 or 2 hours. Still in Poland we have quite flexible labor code, and supply is still relatively better than in other Western countries or in our southern neighbors, so in other countries in sea region.
Karina, you mentioned that you are talking to many new capital investors. Can you describe us the potentially the source of this capital, the part of the world? Is it more, I don't know, the Asian investors, more US? How does it change during the COVID times?
It's really different, and we see capital like from all directions. So it includes even like countries in sea region, but US capital and Asia capital and South Africa. So it's really diversified. So you cannot like say it's only one direction of capital.
Thank you for your insights.
I have a couple of questions for Grzegorz. Thanks to your agency activities in the previous years, many investors selected Poland. So what actions do you plan for the near future to attract more and more investors?
We constantly work on incentives, all types of incentives. So starting from 1st of January, we will decrease the criteria, both qualitative and quantitative, for new investments. So it will be much easier to receive government support. This is one thing. Of course, in the same time, there are some regulation amenities which will allow to make a business more smoothly than it is now. We introduced several mechanisms like Estonian corporate income tax, etc., etc. So we try to convince investors very heavily even though we are the leader of the and the right place to invest, as is the name of our meeting today, we try to be the best and to work on this very hardly. Among various mechanisms, we plan to have some common policy to creating some clusters of industries. We see them being built naturally, like electromobility. We would like to work on this and try to enhance the business in Poland.
Thank you. The second question is, we spoke about getting investors into Poland, but actually very important question is not only how to bring the new investors, but also how to retain the existing ones. Can you tell us a bit more how the agency actually provides the post-investment care for the investors, please?
Mm-hmm. We do take care for our investments, and the best proof is the majority of the money is reinvested. So if you look at the structure of investment in Poland, at the moment majority is reinvested. It gives a very good hint for new investors, because if old investors decide to reinvest, it means it's the right place to invest. We as an agency take care in all phases of investment and aftercare. So we actively support during the whole investment process, not only in the moment when we decide to grant a cash grant or make a decision about tax exemption. So we support in all contacts with local and central authorities. We support in finding suppliers for spare parts or subcontractors for various types of investments. This is our aim to support and help investors.
Okay, thank you very much.
As we heard, you mentioned that the most important for the agency is to find a solution for investors to reinvest the capital. As we heard before, Magda mentioned us that they are trying to be the number one in terms of the retail part, so means that the reinvestment of Immo Finance in Poland is very strong. Magda, I have a question to you. As you mentioned, from the perspective of people that are buying, so their new retail concepts are still needed on the market. Do you believe that in the long term, on the short term perspective for new investors, even those who are watching us today, the Polish retail parks market and the office market are stable and they can bring substantial yields and attractive yields comparing to the Western countries in the coming years?
I would answer this question by looking at our activity. As you said before, Bartek, before we do any move, we analyze it very, very deeply. And this is also something what we are known from on the market. And this is no matter whether we invest in office sector or retail sector. So we are obliged towards our investors to invest into the assets that are proven for the coming times. And looking at our portfolio of offices, about looking at the portfolio, how it is located, how it is diversified, because we have not only the prime offices like Warsaw Spire, but we have also other offices in other districts that can meet all real estate needs of our clients. We ourselves are the best evidence that Poland is the place to invest. And when you look at the numbers also of our investment, the fact that we are the biggest in terms of countries that Immo Finance invests, Poland has the biggest share, is the evidence, the physical evidence that this is the way to go.
Thank you. I would like to now ask Miguel a couple of questions. Actually, one of them is from the public, but that's going to be the second one. The first one is, what do you think can or should change in hospitality investment in Poland? We actually touched based on potential conversions of shopping malls. Maybe do you think there is a potential to convert old office buildings or the type of the buildings to hotels in the future, or extended stay hotels?
Before touching bases on the type of deals, I would just rewind a little bit the tape. I think, Andrzej, we spoke about it several times in the past about the full understanding on the investment in the hotel industry. Um, as mentioned on my first intervention, hotels became very sexy. So there were a lot of people interested in doing hotels. However, the investment cycle was always thought to be on a short-term basis, to do it very fast and try to place it on the market and sell it. That's definitely not how we see the hotel industry, always thought on a medium, long-term basis, benefiting from the cash flow of the hotel itself. So obviously, with the increase of the land costs of the construction, all that equation became much more complex to understand. And some of typical residential office developers, they had always an understanding that this should be done on a very short-term basis. Regarding the types of deals, we definitely expect a completely shift from what we have been seeing in the past years in Northern Europe and Poland, more specifically. Between 80 to 90% of the deals we have been hearing have been new build projects. We do believe that we are in today's market on a consolidation process. We would see a lot of transactions in the market, and in that respect, a lot of conversions as well. Not only conversions of what you mentioned of shopping malls or offices, but actually something that I always felt to be one of the ways of the future, which is what we call the micro project, where in one project you actually have very different uses, both including an hotel function, residential component, a co-working area, and F&B outlets and retail, which actually gathers also a diversification from the point of view of the investor itself. So I do believe this would be probably one of the trends going forward.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I said that we have a couple of questions, but as we're running out of time for the first part of the discussion,
We would start with
we'll
just
come back to that question after the event, and we'll come back to the person who asked it afterwards. Thank you, Miguel.
Yeah, we have probably the main question that left us today. We have 76 representatives of 76 countries. As we evaluated, approximately 150 billion euro to invest. And the most important question of today's meeting is why invest in Poland? Grzegorz, can we please receive your answer on that very important question? Why invest in Poland?
I would say there are many reasons. We are a very good place to invest because of the people. We have very well-educated people. We have very stable economy. We have a very good GDP data supporting the decision. And finally, we have independent judgment of the market as FDI report, which points out Poland as a good place to invest.
Great, thank you. Karina, from the industrial and logistics perspective, why invest to Poland? Can you please answer us this question?
So from logistic point of view, it's for sure great location of Poland in central of Europe and access to 500 million customers in a supply chain that can be served from Poland. And Poland has potential to grow, so potential to expand investment and still labor cost, and we see that our customers are chasing workforce, and this obviously can be found in Poland at good cost and good quality because of those people. So.
Thank you for that. What about the retail and office? Magda, could you please tell us why invest in Poland?
Actually, it's safe to invest. So this is again something that we as Europeans look at. And also the fact that Poland has been reclassified by IFRA from to the developed market helped us as well a lot. And additional reason is also it's a huge market, Poland. When I'm in regional meetings with other country managers responsible for other countries, when we look at the map of Europe, Poland is really having a very large area, and therefore still have lots of potential. So this is the answer.
Thank you. Miguel, what about the hospitality market? Why invest in Poland?
Well, the obvious one would be all the above. I agree with all my colleagues. They gave plenty of reasons. I would add the fact that when you look to Poland, you can't look to Poland for one city or two cities. The capacity of growing on hotels in Poland is still enormous. When compared with other markets, they are almost on a consolidated or mature position. Secondly, it has to do with what I mentioned previously on my intervention. In the majority of the destinations in Poland, you have between 90 to 95% of Polish customers. So you have a big base of the domestic clients as the user of the hotels, and not this preconceptual idea that you do hotel for foreigners. So there is still a great potential to do more hotels in Poland. As mentioned, Poland is also being perceived now as a touristic destination. A lot of Polish people, they decided to do holidays because of actually of um, the COVID situation. But even 2 3 years ago already, you would see a big affluence of Polish customers staying in Poland for holiday purposes. So for all the above plus these reasons, I think that there is still a huge potential to do more hotels in Poland, and I guess a good reason to stay optimistic.
Thank you for that. It's great to hear from so many so big investors, so many good things about the Poland, about the stability, about the potential, and the future times. From our advisory side, it's great as well to see such a good prognosis for the next coming years. And the only thing that is that we need actually right now is good health. So probably all the best to our participants. Thank you very much for the first panel. For your all insights. Thank to our key partner and co-author of the report, Polish Investment Trade Agency. Thanks our online participants as well. And we can move directly into the second part of our event. Now we will move to the second part of the event of our webinar, where we will focus mainly on human capital. What we mentioned today, what is the most important, that our huge potential is just based in human capital, what can bring us additional opportunities and changes. Now we have our guest, Lucyna Pleśniar, who is the CEO of the company People, co-author of our report. Thank you, Lucyna, for joining us today, and it's your time.
Thank you, Bartek. My name is Lucyna Pleśniar. I'm a co-owner, co-founder, and CEO of People, which is a recruitment and contingency employment agency. And as was said, I would like to say something about.
Okay.
We have some technical problems.
Just
sorry about that. Just give us a second.
Everything is okay with the voice? Okay, we had a technical problem. I'm sorry. My role today is say something about conditions of of market of employees of labor market. And before this webinar, I asked few my business partners what would like to know about the labor market if you had to invest in Poland. And I got two main answers. One was cost of employment, and the second was accessibility of employees. And in this short presentation, I try to cover this topic. Talking about the labor market, we have to see it in a context, in an economical context. And about the economy, it was said a lot during the presentation today. But I would like to just mention that we have GDP dynamics comparing to Europe, our Polish GDP dynamics comparing to European Unions is very optimistic from investors' point of view because we expect that, as you can see on this in these graphs, our economy is in quite good conditions comparing to other European countries. And in the right of the slide, we see projections regarding Q3 and Q4 and entire year, and we can see that it's quite optimistic. It's one fact, and another is that the score is more optimistic than we expected when the pandemic started, and it is important fact. And another thing is probably more important, the most important factor when we talking about labor market is unemployment. At the beginning of pandemic, we expected, I mean, economists expected that the unemployment rate this year would be about 10%, would be 2-digit. Now the prognostic is about 7-8. But the very important message which comes from this fact is that maybe it's not a good information for employees, but from investors' point of view, the phenomenon we called employees market is breaking. So I'm sure that the rate of unemployment would cause very important changes in labor market and possibility of hiring new people. But let's go step by step. Maybe the more important things, more important factors regarding hiring and hiring employees It's how the employee, how the labor market looks like, and we have. I would like to depict three factors which are important and which work together, which interfere each other. One of them is employment costs. So now we can answer directly to one of the two important questions which are crucial from investors' point of view. Despite the fact that the economy is still growing, constantly growing in Poland, the remuneration level is very different comparing to European Union. As you can see, average rate per hour in Poland it's about 10-11 euro, and in entire Europe it's over 27. So from this point of view, very hard economic factor. Poland is still very attractive place to invest and to hire people and to build new business. Completely different thing. Different situation we can observe in education. That I said at the beginning that we have to see this factor interfering each other, because when they playing each other, they had different meaning. That each of them separately, and level of education is still growing, is constantly growing in Poland, and the difference between number of people with higher education in Poland and in Europe is not very big. We can see that it's about 44 in Poland and 45 in Europe. It's a number of people with higher education, and we have growing number of students, foreigner students. So it shows that Polish education system becoming more attractive for foreigner students. And last one. Interesting factor which causes Polish market attractive is that Poles work more. We can compare a number of working hours in Poland and other OECD countries, so we can see that this difference is quite high. Now I think that we now have the more important topic, the more attractive topic during our presentation. I mean, reason for changing employer. So why employees change job? How attract employees and how to make them loyal. I think it could be very interesting answer for potential investors. The most important question, very interesting question, is how many people want to change jobs. I'd like to mention that during pandemics, during lockdown, after lockdown, we conducted a survey to assess, to see, to observe employees' attitude to the situation. We wanted to see whether something changed in their attitude, and to be honest, we expected that in such not stable situation, people would be not interested in changing jobs. But the results are very surprising. Let's see. 65% of employees are interested in a changing job soon. The first three graphs shows answers to our questions. Shows answer yes, I want to change job as soon as possible. I want to change job this year. Yes, but not this year, but still I want to change job. 65% of employees want to change job soon. So it could be very interesting, very important factor. And what are the reasons they want to change the employer? Let's see. The major factors are of course compensation. Salary is is one of these factor which doesn't change. It was important before pandemic, is the most important factor right now. But the interesting thing, which changed in last few months, and taking into account the situation with the pandemic situation, is that our rest of factors, because it was surprising to me that one just after enumeration, the most important factor why people change job is scope of responsibilities. So people still want to have interesting job which can develop their competences and build their career. So not just salary, but growing factor is important as well. And of course, employment stability. For example, long-term contract at the beginning of employment. This is something which changed, which have changed recently. Of course, the pandemic situation play a big role in this results. And let's see what are minor qualifying factors in selecting new employer. Organization values and cultures. Just 22% of employees who answer our survey. I said just 22 because it was a very important factor before pandemic. In the top of employee market, it was very important what kind of values, what kind of organization culture presents the company they would like to work for. So it's still important, but the other factors win right now. And the most surprising and I think interesting factor and score in this area is the second one. Non-pay benefits, and this is big change. because before pandemic, in the top of employee market, it was the most important factor. It was kind of I don't know how to say, kind of benefit race. Employers to attract employees build very wide benefit packages, sometimes very sophisticated. So now we can observe that it's not so important for employees. It's not as important for employees as, for example, stability. Coming to the conclusions and observing the Polish labor market from a few perspective, we have more or less, but still stable economy. We have appropriate level of unemployment, which is attractive in terms of gathering employees and attracting them. We know what kind of factors make them interested in changing job, in stay in the company. So it can cause some conclusions. I think it would be the topic to further discussion.
Definitely. Lucyna, thank you very much for many interesting information during this, during your part. I will just additionally slightly say a few words about the office market, because the office market is directly connected to the human capital, which is the biggest potential for the next years for sure. Especially for Why Invest in Poland, we prepared the research based on actual situation in the most important Polish companies. Poland is facing time of the biggest deliveries in all cities, starting from Warsaw through Katowice, through Łódź, Kraków, or Gdańsk. As we mentioned before, 1.5 million modern office space is under construction right now, plus additionally 250,000 of co-working spaces, means easy to lease, easy to change, and temporary spaces. Office used to be a place where we spend a while. The office buildings themselves were multifunctional and provided us lots of services, additional services, not only offices, such as restaurants, canteens, fitness clubs, or kindergartens. Many of these services currently have severe restrictions or are simply not of interest to employees due to those restrictions. So the main question is, can we predict the future workplace? Lucyna used a very nice comparison as a benefits race. How does it impact on the offices? Yeah. So in our survey, we asked more than 250 respondents representing companies in almost all significant markets in Poland. Approximately 40% of them represented companies bigger than 250 people. When you assume it in the total, we surveyed tenants from more than 1 million square meters of the office space in Poland, what in total volume of 12 million gives us a significantly big number, just to analyze, compare, and make some assumptions and the predictions for the future. The most important question that we asked in our survey was regarding impact on current situation and the market participants' expectations. 63 of respondents answered that pandemic has an impact on the companies. It means that during the last 4-6 weeks, they answered that yes, our company faced real COVID-19 impact? We asked the same questions to our clients sometime before in April, and then they answer yes in 75%. It means that generally the number is falling and business is going to be as usual. As usual, I mean in terms of the new world soon, hopefully. Another interesting question in our survey that we asked respondents was about the future and plans, where only 6% of respondents answered we will reduce the area. The message that comes from the survey may be optimistic, as over 53% of respondents declare their willingness to grow or analyze the growth. Offices that we currently have will never be the same. The approach to selection and perception by users will change. It will re-evaluate the features that will be the key choice while making the final decisions. It means that the safety, flexibility are already the main factors to choose the best location and to set up a business in all cities throughout the Poland. In our opinion, hybrid model of working will have a positive effect on smaller cities. This will open up relocation to B or C locations. It means that diversification and changes will be very easy. It's mainly opened by the acceptance to e-work. I mean that as to the home offices and the smaller cities, it's easier to manage this dispersed group of people at the same time. There is many reasons to believe that the BPO shared service, R&D, ITO, and all the connected markets that already employs 340,000 people in Poland will definitely see the further increase. It means that we can expect in the coming months and coming years that the market share of that that tenants in the importance in the offices will definitely increase. It makes the situation that our regional markets will be mainly led by that sector, so the newcomers can set up interesting places in the new hybrid model. What's coming more from our survey is that the people wants to work more from the hybrid model. When we look into data more detail, when we ask the management board and directors, they are expecting about the business continuity, stability, and the future of the companies as well as the market. The younger employees look for the more home office model, but at the same time they are very aware about the SLA, KPIs, and all the instructions from the top management, because the most important for the business is to just provide the same quality business from different places around the world. We heard during last few months that different companies from all the world accepted home office style, let's say style, as a new world, new normal for the next 12 months, 18 months, which is very normal. I believe that during the next years we will see the changes, because what we are facing now is something in the mid phase. Our final phase will be something different, but now we need to evaluate, come back to our offices, and that comes definitely from the potential from our respondents, as the 53% of them said and declared that we are growing. It means that, as mentioned before, the first phase, the e-commerce needs 3 times more space rather than the regular retail. It means that somehow people need to evaluate. People are buying more. We have different shields, different cash pumping into the global economy. So it means that our economy is within next years growing. It needs additional services, additional spaces. However, services that we haven't seen yet probably, and it will reevaluate and change our world at the same time. This is all from our perspective based on our reports. We can move to our second phase.
Yes, we'll now have the panel discussion and the QA session again. So if you have any questions, we already have quite a few of them from our public. We'll try to answer as many possible, but again, the time is a bit limited. So if we don't manage to answer it now, we'll definitely come back to you after the event. So the guests for the second panel about the human capital will be Lucyna Pleśniak, the CEO of People, here with us in the studio. We have Martin Mello, head of Poland for Ericsson. Good morning, Martin. And
Good morning, everybody.
Very good. We can hear you very well. And we have Kamil Stanu, the site director for Grand Parade, which is part of William Hill. Good morning, Kamil.
Hi everyone. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us today. Martin, first question to you from your perspective. How do you perceive investment in Poland? As Ericsson, you are for many years in Poland. How do you perceive this time?
Yes, thank you for the invitation to be on the panel today. Really great topic and very interesting material presented so far. Ericsson's been a long-term investor in Poland, and we've been here since 1904 when we started the first telephone switchboard. So we've had 116 years of experience investing in Poland, and today we have 2,000 software engineers in Krakow and Łódź developing radio software for all radio technologies, including 4G and 5G. And last year we expanded our production in Tczew, where we are making 4G and 5G equipment for the European market. The R&D teams, I must emphasize, this is real state-of-the-art high-tech development, software engineering features which make all the mobile technology we take for granted every day work seamlessly. So, your perception and why invest in Poland? I mean, first of all, there's the geographical attributes. Poland is in the same time zone. It's very close to the Ericsson head office distance-wise in Sweden, and it's in a central, ideal location for the European market. The economic factors have been mentioned today, but the strong economy, the stable economy, year-on-year GDP growth, new investments, and support for funds to invest in R&D and startups is really helpful. And then for the people, it's definitely a shared culture, shared values, same attitude, great English language skills. And Ericsson had worked with a company called Erik Poll before the investment we made in 2016, and we'd worked with Erik Poll for over 20 years, and that gave Ericsson the understanding of the trust, the reliability, the commitment, the quality of the work, and the skills that were here in Poland. So it gave everybody confidence that this was absolutely the right move to make, and we had no regrets at all. And I would also like to add the academia in a high-tech industry, which is changing all the time. We do need to have the very latest skills and make sure that academia is educating graduates to those skills for the industry. And what we see is a large volume of very competent graduates with the latest skills, which is great for developing and growing business in Poland. And we have strong relationships with AGH University in Krakow and with Łódź Polytechnica. We've just built a 5G network with Łódź Polytechnica, one of the first ones in Poland. And things like this really aid the collaboration between academia and industry that helps both parties in the future.
We can't hear you, Bartek.
Hear me?
Yes, now we can hear you.
Great. So as Lucyna mentioned in her presentation, 65% of the employees is currently open for changes, even during the COVID time. So what does attract Polish employees, and how has it changed over the last years?
Yeah, so really good question, I think. But I think when it comes to corporate world, we can definitely see a change, a visible change. And of course, I'm talking from IT market perspective, but I guess it applies to other areas as well. So my first observation is a shift from having a job to have a satisfactory job where I can develop myself, which is, I think, totally in line with what Lucyna covered at the beginning. And this is also reflected in the type of jobs that are being transferred to Poland over the last years. So from low-level processes to more complex areas like R&D or business development. It's a natural move upwards in a Maslow hierarchy, right? So once your basic needs are satisfied, employees start to look for more, let's say, post-material values like self-actualization, like culture, right? Which was also reflected in Lucina's report. And you can say that that might be a little bit controversial, but you can say that during COVID-19 pandemic, it's now an employer market, but I would say that in the grand scheme of things and long term, it will remain an employee market, not only in Poland, because we're not anymore in a survival economy, but growth-oriented economy, which is, I think, good because people in Poland are looking for challenges. They're looking for more ambitious tasks and challenges to face. And the second thing, my second observation, is somehow related to the previous one, and I would look more broadly for a society, on a society like Polish society or European society. If we get someone from abroad, from other continents, and we as a Polish society, we're more, I would say, stable and risk averse. And what I mean by that is that the exuberance visible in Silicon Valley, right, which is a very contrast ecosystem in IT, like, you know, splurging money on a one-star Michelin canteen like Google or Dropbox, or seeing software engineers in hot tubs. Well, it's probably not the best long-term strategy to attract employees, and I think most companies know that by now. And my hypothesis is that we're slightly moving from this wild capitalism of 90s, all right, which was a moment of huge growth, and we start to acquire a more balanced approach to life and really value work-life balance, right? So if you work with someone from US, right, it's impossible to compare social welfare, or in US you get 2 weeks of paid vacation holidays, right? In Europe, in Poland, those benefits are way bigger. And I think, from my perspective, for example, in our case, flexible working hours for parents were more valuable than free meals, right? Same for free parking spots for all employees, so they can pick up their kids. And it's also attractive for more senior people, employees, right? So I would also keep that in mind, that what attracts people nowadays are not benefits, but maybe stable work, although, you know, the market is full of opportunities, but exciting projects, challenges, and this more work-life balance approach, and benefits that are not coming down only to, you know, additional free meals, but more social welfare oriented, I would say.
Okay, thank you, Kamil. On the other hand, Lucina, after the turbulences in the first half of 2020, could we say that we achieved this employer market, or it's still the employees market? And what does it mean for the investors?
It's a good question, because the economic scores perspective of growing unemployment shows that it could be maybe not end, but changing in the employer employees dynamic, but still, employees are very optimistic. I refer to our survey. They are optimistic regarding their job. They are optimistic regarding searching for a new job. So it's changing. It's not. I think that right now it's not not easy to answer this question directly, because it's in the process of changing, because the environment changes and environment changed. Yeah, but employees are still they mode, they mindset are still in the previous time. So it could be embarrassing for both parties of labor market. But I think the main important thing is that the expectations had changed. How was it mentioned before? People looking for challenges, people looking for valuable work and opportunity to develop themselves. So answering your questions, if it's end of employee market, not really, but topics, but the expectations we are talking about during recruitment process has changed, and they are more reasonable, more connected with growth, more connected with private life, work-life balance, and yeah.
Thank you.
I would like to ask Martin a question about his R&D locations. You have a few of them in Poland, but I guess for the last few months, all the people are actually working from home. Do you think, what's going to be the future? Is it going to be people going back to the offices, that they're going to stay home, or they're going to be scattered around Poland or around the locations that they're in already? How do you foresee the future in this field?
Yes, you're right. Since the middle of March, we've had the majority of our employees working from home, and that's been the case across Ericsson over the world. So over 80,000 Ericsson employees have been working from home during this pandemic. And the same has been for Poland. And I must say, it's been an experiment, and a forced experiment, of course, but it's one that's been really successful. And we've found that the productivity has been maintained, and we still meet our commitments for the deliveries that the teams have to make. The R&D centre in Poland, for Ericsson, it's the second largest for radio software development in Ericsson after Sweden. So it's really important for us. Today we have a site in Krakow and in Łódź, and there's 2 offices in each of those major cities. So 4 offices, but 2 centres of location. Our view is that in such a industry of telecommunications, where the projects are getting more complex as 5G is being introduced into the market, that we need to stay in larger teams. So we have no intention to have separate offices across Poland. We will stay in Krakow and Łódź. And this gives us what we believe is efficiency reasons for knowledge sharing, having this R&D muscle for the very large projects where new features are required for 5G, and allows the teams to collaborate and innovate together. And whilst the work from home has been successful, I think in part that's because we've had a strong team that has well-established relationships and has been working together for some time that's enabled that to happen. Now, what we're seeing now is that teams are working well from home when they are in the established projects. They've all got their assignments, they're working on their particular activities. But we do see that for these complex assignments, when they start up, that there does need to be some element of face-to-face collaboration. So, of course, following all new sanitary procedures, we do see that there's collaboration activities, knowledge sharing, brainstorming, innovation activities when we're starting these new projects to get them going. And we see that being something that the engineers themselves really want to do. So to summarize, we do see the benefits of scale in such complex technology. And of course, working from home is here to stay, and the offices will be real collaboration hubs, and we're using those to make sure that the projects get started in a good way for the engineers to continue to work on.
Kamil, as Martin mentioned, they want to scale up. However, just into those mainly in those two locations. From the many global investors, we can see the situation that they are spraying around the Poland, just setting up the main hub in example Krakow, Warsaw, and then going to the smaller B or C cities. It means that the smaller team remote work is going well. What are the obstacles that companies might face while scaling up in Poland from your perspective?
Yeah, so that's a tough question because I don't want to, spot any blood on the landscape, right? Given the fact that we're talking about investing in Poland. But I think thinking, globally, I would say it's one of the obstacles might be mindset. And let me explain what I mean by that. It's the fact that Poland, it is an opportunity, right? But it's not an untapped opportunity anymore. As you mentioned before, according to some metrics, Poland is considered as developed market. So I think anyone investing in Poland shouldn't consider it as a total greenfield. And whenever you start drilling, you'll find oil, right? It's not that anymore. There's a lot of players coming in, which of course it's a double-edged sword because that attracts a lot of people to Poland. That's why when I think if you're planning to grow and scale, you have to acquire a more systematic mindset. And what I mean by that is we once had a meeting with other head of centers in Krakow, including IBM, Motorola, and big players. And it was obviously about talent pool. Well, in IT industry, it's actually all about talent, right? People that you want to bring on board. And our conclusion was that we should not hunt for the same fish, but make the pond bigger. We're competing for the same, and as Martin mentioned, Ericsson cooperates with universities, and I think that's one of the greatest example of how to overcome those obstacles. Because if we want to grow, I guess we have to cooperate and grow together. It's not Wild West anymore, so it's more complex, and I think that's how we can overcome the obstacles that one company might face once you reach 500, 700 people, 1,000 people. You got to be part of the system, what I call ecosystem, an environment that you will also contribute to that to make it bigger.
Thank you.
I have a question for Lucyna. The question is, at the moment the young people expect to work from home, so in your opinion, does it make them less identified with the brand? Is there a challenge here?
May I answer very directly? If you think about identifying with a company, forget it. I think the growing tendency right now is people identify with themselves. with themselves. They have a very practical approach, and they think first of all their interests and their own agenda, and I think that working out of office, of course, it could be a factor which coming back to our older way of thinking, when the loyalty of employees was built based on identifying with organization, with the values, I think it doesn't work anymore, and working at home. This type of working we have right now to just make this process stronger and faster. And when we think of building of loyalty of employees, we should rather think about creating such conditions in our organization that could create employees the environment to build their own interests, their own agenda. I mean, personal growing, career building, work-life balance, and challenges if they need this type of work. It's about a perfect match. On one hand, we have employer interests and employer's agenda, and on the other we have employee agenda, and now they are equal on the market. The better thing, the better way of building loyalty of employees is recognize what their agenda of people, and create such conditions that they could realize this agenda.
Okay, thank you very much. Martin, one more for you. We already spoke about what used to be the key factor for new investments here, and you as Ericsson have been here for over a century. Obviously not going to compare to that time. But how does the situation look like now for the investors coming in? Is there any change in the last 2 decades? Is it better? Is it easier? How do you feel about that?
I think in many cases, what's needed for the future in terms of investment factors are very similar to what's gone before. So, the geographical attributes, the economic factors, the values, the culture of the people, the reliability, the commitment, the quality, the skill set, they're of course really, really important. But probably a bit more important now, because of the travel restrictions, is the location. An R&D center in Poland has the ability, although be it infrequently, but still has the ability to travel relatively short distances. That's not really possible on a long distance basis now. So the geographical location and transportation options becomes even more important. Another factor to consider is that the software that's being developed and the problems and requirements that they address, they don't get easier. The systems, the networks become more complex, and this is definitely the case in moving to 5G, having 1 gigabit per second download speeds, 1 or 2 millisecond latency, and all of the new use cases that will come from Industry 4.0 and industries embracing the 5G network. And the 5G network is also going to enable scale of artificial intelligence, especially in robotics in factories, where the intelligence can now move to the cloud. So these problem solving skills become more important, and this means that the strong stream of university graduates with diversity is more important than ever for the future, and that they will need really strong skills with analytical skills, problem solving skills, the right attitude to addressing society's concerns and new requirements from our customers. And it's really important that academia keeps up the pace with the new technologies, and as I see, they are, and that's really important. So we need the new graduates and new employees to be well versed in modern technology like machine learning, like artificial intelligence, like cybersecurity, as well as the programming languages like Python that are very popular today. So this continuous learning, adaptability to change, and academia that responds to these needs, I see as being very important for the future. And then I would like to come back to this ecosystem that was mentioned before, because we do see that, that there's benefits, there's a responsibility to the society in Poland that we use our investments in both R&D and production to build a strong ecosystem, bringing together R&D with academia, with startups, and with industry. And a great example with doing this is in Łódź, with Łódź Special Economic Zone, where we're working with startups and industries, looking at how we can bring new 5G applications to the market that startups can grow with and industries can benefit from. And this together with the 5G network that we built with Łódź Polytechnica. So that academic relationship is, I think, really more important as the past in the future than the past, as the society adapts, technology changes, and we need that continuous learning approach.
Thank you, Martin. Listen up, the question for you. We've heard today that the people now, especially the young people, are looking for the exciting projects, as Kamil mentioned before. In your report, we've seen the number that the Poles are working more than the European average, let's say. As an advisory company, you are interviewing thousands of people every month. And what are currently, from your perspective, people expecting from the workplace? Is rather salary or Fruity Fridays? What are the key drivers right now?
The main key driver is salary. Of course, it doesn't change, but it depends because different people looks for different things. It's maybe not very sophisticated knowledge, but it's working. I think that there is no universal rule, because there are people who are focused on remuneration, salary. They are focused on building their life right now, and of course for them. The salary would be the main factor deciding of changing, and there are some people, and there is I think growing group of people in Poland who are looking of challenges, who are looking of growth, and they decide about changing employer based on attractiveness of projects. We had examples, especially in IT sector, when people decided to change employer who paid less but they offered very more interesting technologies, more interesting projects. So answering your answer depends, but as a curiosity, I can say that it's a general observation for young people right now, especially during pandemic, the very important factor is home office. Simply, it's the observation from recruitment field that, for example, in BPOs, shared service centers, people who are recruited for this area, for this sector, the first question they ask during interview is a question about home office. So. As I said, different factors, different things for different people, and the key and the wisdom is to recognize perfectly their needs.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Kamil, today we have many representatives as a participants from the global companies looking into the region, in the CE region in general, where to place their first R&D, ITO, BPO shared service in Poland. You as part of William Hill are very successful in Krakow. You have a big, strong team with a great reputation. So probably you are the one of the best person to get knowledge from. And we would like to know your tricks and tips. Maybe you could say us a few things. What would be the best course of action to set up an office in Poland? Maybe some advices, some tips from your side?
Okay. Well, first thing, I'll talk with three of you guys, including you, Bartek. Well, so excuse me the product placement in here, but I really mean it. I mean, I think we have many great institutions, including public one and privately held organization like Aspire in Krakow, that would help you connect you with right partners. But I think I won't be too original in this case. I mean, I would consider either a joint venture or acquisition. That was our case. Grand Parade was acquired by William Hill. If you want to get up to speed, but if you want to build from scratch, I think I would first look for a skill recruitment agency or executive search consultants. That's the first thing. Good real estate consultants or real estate company. And not because exactly you're looking for a space, but from my experience, these companies, they usually are very well connected. They know the market. You have a very broad visibility into what's going on in the market. You know other companies, so you work as a connector. Of course, a good lawyer would come in handy as well. And the fourth element, I think, is a chamber of commerce or relevant organization with similar companies like ours. And I think with those four elements, those four agents, I think you can set up pretty easily an operation in Krakow, in Warsaw. And I know examples from Krakow of companies that they set up an office in 1 or 2 months, and after 3 or 4 months they had almost 100 people and be fully operational. So it's not that, and they follow the same pattern like that. They had no previous presence in Poland. So I think it's pretty easy, and I would do it this way if I was about to set up an office again in Krakow.
Thank you, Kamil.
Based on what Kamil said, I want to go back to Martin and ask, because you have people working on home office now, and it's working. You say it's productive. It's bringing the results. So talking about the setting up a branch here, a company, an office, Kamil mentioned about that you need some sort of a headquarters space. What do you think would have to be the reason for the people to actually go back to offices full time as they used to do before the home office times. Is it actually possible in the future?
I wouldn't say that too soon in the future people are going to be thinking about returning to the offices like they were before the pandemic. I think, as I said, the pandemic has been a forced experiment, but one where the results have been seen very positively for many reasons. And I think in the future that the office of the future will be one where there will be more collaboration areas, more project areas. And as I mentioned earlier, the need for this collaboration, it doesn't go away and is probably more highlighted the need for it at the beginning of projects. So when you're starting a new project, when you are bringing together people to define the requirements and define the way the solutions are going to be delivered and how you're going to break up the project into different components, then I think there's real benefits then in getting people together and making sure that the team gets off to a good start. And once the components are broken down into manageable parts and everybody's got their work plans, then this is something that can easily be done working from home. So as I say, I do think that there will be the need for face-to-face meetings. I think some people welcome that personal touch, but also it's such an industry where you have such complexity of projects that you're working on, then there does need to be some collaboration and innovation space. But I do think that these offices will become those innovation hubs, and that's what the HQ may become in the future.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I would like to say a huge thank you for joining us today. Thank you for the first and the second part right now. We had a we have a big number of very interesting insights here. So generally, to sum up, I would like to say a couple of words. The Poland is a country of great opportunities and the possibilities, thanks to uniqueness and the potential, also not visible at the first glance, as we mentioned during our panel discussions. I hope that the knowledge and insights presented during today's event will confirm your belief that Poland is a great place to invest. Once again, I would like to thank Polish Investment and Trade Agency and the company people, thank you, Lucyna, for the strategic partnership and the entire event. I would like to say a huge thank to our whole team on the side of the Walter Herz, who were responsible for the whole event and the report. I invite you to download the report and contact us if you have any questions. Starting from now, it's available on our website to download. Please visit www.whyinvestinpoland.com. Thank you very much once again, and hopefully see you soon personally in Poland. Thank you.
Thank you.